There's a lot of forgiveness being asked in this episode, right? Let's tear apart some buildings. Yes. So you already know that I use the 4-meter method for all of my coasters, except for the times that I don't. Of course, clear as mud, right? I'm so sorry, I'm going to butcher so many names. All we do know about this is that it's got a really stupid shape. Round off your bottom here. Ooh, so to speak. Mind out of the gutters, guys. I gotta keep that in, I'm sorry. Hey everybody, how's it going? So thanks for coming along to this very special extra episode of ChachoLandia. And this is something that you've asked for. It's an extra episode from the main series episodes where we start to pull things apart. I show you how things are built. We look through your comments. We answer some of those queries that you may have. And also show you how to build some of the extra things. So it's a bit of an amalgamation of the bits I didn't get to say in the main series because you've asked for shorter episodes. But also continuing the top tip series in some way. So guys, I'm trusting you guys to tell me whether this is helpful or whatever in the comments below, because this is the first time I've ever done anything like this. So let's start with the last episode then. This is what we built. This is our B&M flyer, Sentinel, and my god, you guys are just amazing. Like, you are just awesome. This is the best episode ever, right? And of course, off the back of that, there are some things that we need to look at, and there are some things that need to change. It's not entirely perfect. So thank you so much for all of your suggestions and all of your feedback. It really does help. And the first one we're going to look at is from, and I'm so sorry, I'm going to butcher so many names. Please just forgive me. I'm asking for forgiveness now. I don't know if you're a Louis or a Lewis, but mention to start with that B&Ms don't use flywheels to or drive wheels to go around corners. That's absolutely correct. It's absolutely valid and absolutely true. Now, this is a trade-off that I didn't talk about in the original episode because this is something that we've been doing since Alpha. So the friction on the coasters meant that when you were going around a corner, the coaster would slow down too much and it would eventually stall and you lose the element of realism there. Now, that just becomes habit. That's just something that we've done since Alpha. And actually, I've removed the flywheels from this, thinking, oh, it's going to stall, being really cocky, and it hasn't. It hasn't made any difference at all. It's actually now exactly as it should be. So I'm actually pleased to say, let's keep it. It's really loud. Let's keep it this way. It works, right? And it now looks really real. So just to let you know, the reason that the flywheels and the drive wheels were actually there to start with is because of historic reasons within game. It's one of the trade-offs that we no longer need to make. So thank you for that one. Just to let you know, I've also taken them off the back end here. So it's now only got drive wheels, as Louis has suggested, only where the track is straight. So the next question I get then is all about the custom supporting, because I didn't really show you how those were built. I'm sorry, I have completely forgotten to take down who left the comment. Please forgive me again. There's a lot of forgiveness being asked in this episode, right? So custom supporting then, actually relatively easy to do. What I've done is I've let the game do its thing in certain areas. So for example, where it comes to automatic supports that are on the inversions here, I've just let it do its thing. And then everywhere else, I've then started to do some custom supports. And you can tell by, let me just bring back my UI, you can tell where the custom supports are, because this is a normal one, and then the ones that aren't highlighted are all custom supports. So when it comes to the inverts, as we already know, the in-game supports aren't actually particularly too realistic. So wherever you've got a flat piece of track like this, then you can actually have this, I call them V supports, but they have an official name. A V or a U support. They actually have, they're supported both sides, and then they're attached to the top here. So if I just take this apart, these are just the coaster supports that you find in game. Nothing special about these at all. There's no Thememakers Toolkit involved in these. There are Thememakers Toolkit supports that are available for better supporting. So if you wanted to go and use those, then there's just a connector, and you just bury the connector into the track slightly so that it's flush with each other. And then, of course, you're going to need some kind of concrete base. And where possible, your concrete bases should be at the same height as each other, unless your terrain dictates otherwise. And the reason for that is because the idea of this support is that it spreads the load of the weight of the track, and it spreads it 50-50. So half of the weight is going to come down here, and half the weight is going to come down here. And if it's not level, then you're going to have extra stress on the one that's slightly higher, and then the one that's slightly lower is going to it's not going to have as much of an effect. So where possible, your foundation concrete bases need to be level, unless of course as I said, your terrain dictates that. And then over on the actual bend itself up here, similar principle, but it's just a V. So there's a vertical one, and then there's also one that's around between 70 degrees, 45 and 70 degrees, depending on your terrain and everything, and your topography and all that sort of stuff. But it's ultimately the same principle. So you've just got the two supports will meet, and then you've just got a flange here that just joins into the track. Now, if you are going to custom support, you're going to need a lot of patience, and you are also going to need a little bit of squint and believe, because you can't always get it perfect. It's just not possible. Not even with the ThemeMaker's Toolkit ones, you still can't make them absolutely perfect, because just the way that the game places track and everything. And then similar principle with this one. It's just a variant again. So it's just a one that's got the V to it, but it's actually got a bit of an extension to it, and that's because you can't get it flush into the track very easily. So they actually raise it slightly above the track, slightly out of the track, and then it just transfers all the forces, and then it comes down this way again. But same principle. And this is one of those times where the terrain has dictated that your foundations are slightly different. So a lot of your forces on this one, and a lot of the weight is actually going to be carried by this one here, this support here. So you have a slightly higher foundation and then slightly lower foundation this side, just as a support. But the ultimate principle is that an archway is actually the most sturdy version of a support that you can use. Pretzel Loop is exactly the same. It just uses a much larger, much wider version of the same flat supports that we're using. But then you've got a combination here of in-game supports and also a custom support there. So, and in terms of where you place the supports, well, that depends on your country. Because in some countries that aren't prone to earthquakes and things, you don't need so much supporting. But in areas where you've got either weak land, poor topography, lots of hills, earthquake risks, landslip risks, etc., you'll need far more supports than anything else. And the way that you find out is have a look at coasters in your country. So if you're seeing a giga coaster that's, you know, 300-400 foot high and it's only got 4 supports up the lift hill, go with that. It's real. There's no real guiding principle, because it depends on the location of the coaster and where you're putting it. And then the last one that we've got is from Maywane. I think you're Maywane. Another one that I've just butchered. I'm so sorry. And that's to do with the foliage and everything that we're using in the game being a little bit too mature for a park that opened in 2015. And again, that's absolutely spot on. But that's something that we have to deal with the game. So the foliage that we've got in game is all mature foliage. We don't get given any baby trees as such, and anything that we do get given in baby tree wise is still quite mature. So like, for example, these ones here, these poplars are the babyest trees that we have of that nature, so they are the smallest ones. Likewise with the pine spruces, the smallest one is still a mature size. So for this one, it's not out of the realm of the possibility that this park could have been built around an existing nature palette, right? So it's not out of the realm of the possibility that these trees may have already been here and it was a forest and they've just cleared a path through the forest and then just put down some foliage and everything that way. And likewise over in the back area here, it's the same principle. Yes, in real life this foliage would be new and it would only have been around for 5 or so years, so it would only just be starting to take hold now and come into maturity. The trees may not necessarily be as big as they are, but in the interest of making the park as full as we possibly can, we're going for just a full palette. So I'm hoping that you're going to be able to understand the trade-off on that one, and I'm hoping that it's acceptable to you guys that we're making that trade-off. Had we had the mini versions or baby versions or better foliage, if we had the Planet Zoo foliage, for example, this park would look completely different, because you can do that really nice new effect with Planet Zoo foliage. But with Planet Coaster we're a bit limited, and the stuff that's on the workshop, it's 2-piece count heavy. N7 did, I think it's N7, did an awesome, amazing, I've got it here actually as a tree pack in my blueprint. I think it's called Trees. Yes, this palette, N7's Custom Trees. amazing, amazing, amazing. You've got all of these trees and foliage and everything that you can use. Look, are varying different sizes and different styles and different everything, but they are just, well, you've just seen it there. Look how heavy they are on the piece count just to place the actual blueprint. And when we're going to be spamming these around everywhere, it's just, it's going to radiate lake the park. So unfortunately, there is a trade-off that we make on that one. So guys, they're the top comments. Everybody else obviously saying how you like the coaster, how realistic it looks. So that's really positive. Thank you so much for all of those comments. So yeah, I'm happy to change coasters if something is wrong. So I'm happy to remove those flywheels. And we did this on the stand-up coaster in Radiate Lake. Stairs were wrong, and the chain lift was wrong, and the supports were wrong, and they were all changed throughout the entire series. So absolutely keep those sorts of things coming in, because I'm not perfect and I'm never going to be perfect, but I'm happy to hear everything. So let's go ahead and have a look at these inversions then. Let's go and build these in game. So there's two inversions then that you guys have asked me to talk you through how to build in the game, and that's of course the Pretzel Loop and the weird fly dive 540 roll, whatever you want to call it, that's in the background that's got the really, really weird shape. So let's come over here where there's no noise so I can show you, and of course here's one I prepared earlier with the flying coaster. So you already know that I use the 4-meter method for all of my coasters, except for the times that I don't. Of course, clear as mud, right? No, so on a serious note, on the flying coaster, I was using a 5-meter method rather than a 4-meter method, and that's because of the size of the trains and the distance between the cars. The 4-meter method is just a little bit too tight, so I go for a 5, sometimes maybe even a 6, but 5 for the most part. So you're going to want to bring your coaster into your lowest position that you want to enter your pretzel roll, right? I always have the angle snap on to 11.25 degrees because it enables me to talk in numbers of snaps rather than degrees, because that's actually a bit more translatable. So when you're ready to bring your pretzel loop into its ascent, you want to go into 11.25. So 1 snap, 2 snap, 3 snaps, 4 snaps. So you're taking it up to 45 degrees, right? Now, depending on the velocity of the train, how fast it's traveling, and how fast you want it to travel through the inversion, is going to depend on how high you want your pretzel loop to be. So I'm just going to take it up a couple more. Again, you're going to be smoothing this out anyway, so it's going to make this a bit more of a smoother transition. And then when you get to the top here, you need to bring it down 2 notches, and then you bring it down 2 notches. So you're taking it down to 22 degrees and then 0 degrees, right? And then because B&Ms have got that signature teardrop roll, you now bring it down 3 notches. So it's minus 33 degrees. And then another 3 notches to 67. And then you just want to complete it and bring it down 2 notches to 90 degrees. But at this point, you also need to then rotate it by minus 11 degrees or 11 degrees, depending on whether you want your pretzel roll to go this way or whether you want it to go this way. So we do that one, but you only do that for 1 because you then return it straight back to 0. And now you go 2 notches, and you go 2 notches, and then you go 2 notches until you get to 22 degrees, and then you refer it back to 1 notch, 1 notch, and then you just repeat this in the opposite fashion. So we go up 1 notch, up 1 notch, up 2 notches to 45 degrees, 2 notches to 67, and then you return it to 90, and at this point we flip it back so it's straightening up, and then we take the roll back off to 0, and we go 2 notches because we're doing the reverse image, then 3 notches, then 3 again, and then 2 down, and then 2 down to 45 degrees, and then you take it out of the roll that way, and then bring it back down. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so you get the idea. Now what you've got now is a pretty symmetrical version of the Pretzel Loop there. It's about the correct size and about the correct width, and when you smooth this out, this weird little transition that you've got here where it does a zigzag, that will smooth itself out, so it's actually quite nice little smooth. And you already know with the 4-meter method, you take 4 pieces of track and you smooth it one way, and then you take the same 4 pieces of track and then you smooth it back the other way. So I'll put a link to the 4-meter method video I did anyway. So that's the Pretzel Loop. Let's have a look at this fly lie, fly lie. So you can go ahead and call this whatever you like. It's a 540 roll, it's a fly dive, it's a fly lie, fly lie. All we do know about this is that it's got a really stupid shape. We're going to build one. So yes, this is this double inversion thing that are on flying coasters. That's essentially a 0G roll that's a little bit stretched out. And it does have a really weird shape and it's really difficult to perfect. So again, I'm going to use the 5-meter method rather than 4-meter method because of the length of the trains. But the principle remains the same. We snap it to 11.25 degrees so that we can talk in snaps, but you need to change your height and everything in accordance to how fast your train's traveling through this, right? So just have that in mind, that this is going to be really intense if you're going to throw a train through it. It's just like the Pretzel Loop. So we bring it into the point where we want it to come in, so it's typically going to be the lowest point. We're going to bring it up one, and we're going to bring it up another one, we're going to bring it up another one again, and we're going to keep going until we hit 56 degrees on this one, because the train has to lose quite a lot of its momentum quite early, but you're only going to keep it at 56 degrees for a short time, because you're then going to bring it down to 45, and you're then going to bring it down to 35, but it's at this point you're going to start rolling the train. The direction of the roll is completely up to you. It depends what you've got before and after this inversion, so you need to make sure that it's comfortable for your riders, but whatever way you go, when you hit 33 degrees, you're bringing it round 45 degrees. You're then going to bring this down to 22 degrees, and this is where you're going to keep it for a while. So 22 degrees on the height, and then you roll it to 90 degrees. You keep it at 22 degrees and you roll it to 135, and then you keep it at 22 degrees and you roll it at 180. And now we need to do something really quick with this, because the train is now losing quite a lot of momentum quite quickly, and this transition is really snappy. So we're now going to bring it down to 11 degrees, but this time we're going to continue the roll all the way to 270. And then we bring it down to 0, and then we're going to bring it to the fly position. So we're going to bring it to 0 degrees. So that's the fly, lie, fly bit. And now it needs to dive completely to the ground. So this time you take it down to 33 degrees, so 3 notches, but we continue the roll. So this one is going to go 45 degrees. And then we bring it to minus 45 degrees on the height, and we bring it to 90. And then we're going to bring it to 135 and bring it to 56. And then we're going to bring it to lying, which is 180. And then you just round off your bottom here, ooh, so to speak. Mind out of the gutters, guys. I gotta keep that in, I'm sorry. And there you have your really weird fly lie 540 roll bit, right? Now what you then need to do is just take your smoothie smooth, you do your 4 meters, and this will take care of this bit here, it will take care of this bit here, it will soften it out a little bit. But that's ultimately what you're looking for, right? And when you look at them from the side, they really are quite weird inversions. You can play with your rolls here, so even though we've done it in 45-degree increments, you might decide to do it slightly more so that you reach the fly position a little bit sooner. So you might end up in the fly position here and then dive it down. It's completely up to you, right? But this is the ultimate shape that you are looking for. So let's now go and have a look at some other stuff in the park and tear that apart. Here we are then, back at Plomplepop's coaster, and you guys have asked me to tear apart the ride photo building and also the station building so you can see how that's all put together. You've also asked me to talk through how the coaster itself is built. It's just the 4-meter method, so it's just your typical standard lift hill, and then from this point on it's the 4-meter method, and I just go into the banks early of the curves and into lift hills and everything, and then the Smoothie Smooth tool does the rest for you. So the reason that this enters into a lovely transition is purely because I've started the roll on the bend about here, and then I've taken it round. So if I close the coaster for a second, you'll be able to see slightly. So 4-meter method like that, and then it just goes down and go down and go down. And I've started the roll at this point, and then I've started the bend at this point, and then I just bend it round this way. It goes up the hill, and then it just keeps continuing that way. And again, same principle here. So I start the roll about here without a bend, and then I start the bend there, and then it goes round that way. And then the Smoothie Smooth just takes care of everything that you need. So if you do want to see that real quickly in practice as I'm actually building, I need a coaster first, don't I? That's a good start. And then there's the Wendigo here, like this. And then I take 4-meter method, like so. So I'm just going to take it up. Obviously, I'm not going to send a train around this track. So there we go. Let's just bring it to a hill, like so. So I just need to make sure then that my banking offset is just under 2 degrees. And then when I'm ready to put it into a bend, I'll start the roll to either 22 degrees or 33. It depends on how fast the train is traveling. Remember, the Smoothie Smooth is going to take care of how sharp this actually banks. It's going to start bringing the actual banking, the beginning of the banking, down to this part down here anyway. So, and then I bank it one more time and then start the bend, like so. And then if you're going to have a train change, then you just change, not a train, sorry. If you're going to have a height change, then you just change your height. And then when you're ready to bring it out of the bend, I always like to level it off to a minus 11.25, and then start the unbanking process at this point. And then you're going to bring it back to 0, bring that to 0, and that to 0, and then you bring it up again like so. And then, like I say, the Smoothie Smooth is going to take care of how awful this transition is at the moment. You're going to need to pass this probably 4 times. You might need to do a 5th. It depends on how you're messing about with the track and everything. But that's essentially the principle behind it. That's all I do. There's nothing trickery with it. There's nothing particularly special with any of that. So let's tear apart some buildings. Yes. So these are actually really simple. So we're going to go from the roof down, right? Because that's probably the most logical way of doing it. So we're going to start with the actual roof pieces themselves. They are just Thememaker's Toolkit squares. So this is the flat shaped square 4-meter that you get. Let me show you this in the menu. So square. It's this one here. There it is. So, and it's just aligned to a surface. This piece here, it's just the thick wooden beam that you actually find in game. It's nothing special. And I chose that thick wooden beam because I wanted it to be thick, and I wanted to have a bit of a texture that the hydro beams don't afford. And so that's why I've chosen that one. They've got a bit of a shine to it. So that's what I wanted there. These wall sets, this one here, this is actually a Thememaker's Toolkit wall set. It's by KPR. It's the cartoon wall set, and it's awesome. If you haven't downloaded it, you absolutely need to go and download it. It's fantastic. So let me just move this out of the way. There we go. This ceiling here, you'll be surprised. It's the square again. In fact, I use this square a lot because it's just so incredibly versatile. Like this inside wall, it's wallpaper or it's paint is the square. Yeah, it's just so versatile. So you can see then that I'm using the in-game beam for pretty much everything. So if I just move those out of the way, we're making a mess. We're making a right royal mess. This bit here then is just the stucco wall. That's in-game, you know, just coloured. And I wanted the plaster effect. So we've got the cartoon effect on the main wall that's on the top and everything. And I wanted the stucco effect on the bottom here. Then we've just got the thick wooden beam again as the countertop. And then the wooden floor tile from Thememaker's Toolkit, which you see me use this absolutely everywhere. I'd be lost without this item because it's just a beautiful, beautiful piece of flooring that also doubles up a wall and everything. And then inside here, we've got the countertop. So this is, I think it's probably a separate building actually because of the way that it's put. Yeah, it's a separate building, but it's still the stucco wall. So if I pull this out, you can still see it's just a version of the stucco wall. The actual monitors here, they are just the monitor and the stand that comes in game, nothing special. Down here we've got some pillars, so it's the concrete pillar that comes with the actual base game itself. So there it is, base game. And these little base pads for the pillar, They are the Vintage Pack pillars. I think they're Vintage Pack. Are they Vintage Pack? Yeah, Vintage Pack. So the vintage column just sunk into the ground just to make it look like it's an actual pillar. And then, of course, we have an absolute beast of Thememakers Toolkit stuff in here. So I've used the thick wooden beam as a support for all of the monitors, and then just put the monitors on. The way that I do these, by the way, is I actually physically place the camera down where I want it to be. So the camera is here, and that's just made up of the Thememakers Toolkit electrical boxes, the CCTVs, the flash unit, and a beam. And then I wait for the coaster to get to the position where the camera will actually be, and then I enter into the ride camera mode, and I take pictures of each row and go back that way. And that's how I do that, right? So the actual then decoration inside here, we've just got loads of Thememakers Toolkit stuff. I've got the collectibles rack, I've got the cash register, there's Cosmic Cow, plushies, the printer that's sunk into the desk. I'm sorry, I don't remember who it is, but I bang on about how awesome that tip was because it was just perfect. So it's a copy machine that's sunk into the ground, or into the surface, into the desk, whatever you want to call it, just to make it look like it's a printer. And sometimes, you know, you don't have to go as high as that. You can actually bring it down or whatever. So just make it appropriate. A computer, because all of these photos and everything need a central computer to program everything, to control everything. So this is like the central server, if you like. Then a phone, because you're going to need, hello butterfly. Then a phone, because you're going to need some kind of communications with some kind of office, or some, you know, wherever it's going to go. And of course you can have stationery and stuff around. You need some clutter, so you're going to have a fire extinguisher. You are also going to have boxes and clutter and everything. And a bin. Whoops, it's really bad. Camera. And a bin. And then, of course, you're going to have filing cabinets. So this is where you would keep all of your, like, the folders that you sell the photos and everything in. So this is just put in at the back here. You could just as easily put these in the front here if you're wanting to hide them. You know, there's no precedent set. I just do that because I like them on show. But yeah, if you want to hide them and put them in the front here, go ahead and do that. The stuff here, they come from the Studios pack. So console players, I believe you guys are getting the Studios pack very soon. They're just the film crew idle. But I think in game you've also got businessmen or business people idle as well. I don't know if that's Studios or if that is in game. But either way, Studios will solve the problem if they're missing. So I just put those in and colour those. And then just lots of Thememakers Toolkit stuff around here. So you've got some signs, you've got the posters, you've got the letters, and the rest, as you can see, is pretty much as you do. Outside the front here, we've got the sale banners. They came from Thememakers Toolkit. They're the Bronation stuff. These are awesome. They come in all sorts of variants. You saw me use it in Fundy Fun Spot. And then just the splats, they come in game. They're those Planet Coaster signs that you can use. You typically use them for ice creams and stuff, but yeah, I use them on the floor just to produce splats. Some people like it, some people don't. You know, it is what it is. And then the sign itself, really simple stuff for the coaster. So you've got the hydro letters just placed around. I wanted to give it a bit of a jaunty stuff, so it's got like different size stuff, not size, sorry, different facing stuff. I just wanted to make it look a bit weird. And then you've got, this one has come from Thememakers Toolkit. It's another version of the safety sign that you can get. And then you already know how I do these cue boards. They are just TV screens, and I've loaded in a custom image. If you want the images, then it's in the Reigate Lake download pack. Just download the zip file that comes with Reigate Lake, and you'll have access to all of these, as well as the multimedia videos that I used in Reigate Lake as well. And of course, I will also build a pack when this park goes onto the workshop, so that you can see those as well. Let's tear apart a station. Yes. You'll be pleased to know that it's actually a similar principle with a station. The materials and the methods and everything that I've done are consistent with the ride Photoshop, right? And that's done by design. It's because it has to be looking consistent. So you're not going to be surprised to know at all that the roof, yes, it's the squares. So let's just move those out of the way like that. And then the beams, they are the thick beams that come in game. So we've seen those already. So let's move those out of the way. I did a building that had the Plomplepop coaster logo to it, so I just was able to copy and paste that quite a lot. This bit here, I used the smaller squares. So these ones still here. Use the smaller squares just to fill in the gaps, and because you're using the thick beams, you've got quite a lot of give and quite a lot of forgiveness in overlap and stuff. So when you actually take this apart, you can see it's actually quite scrappy and quite messy underneath, but you wouldn't notice because the beam hides those misdemeanors. Think of the same way that I do the path method, where I use the mulch to hide quite a lot of stuff that I don't want you to see. So, and then underneath the station, then we're back to the comic ones again. So you've already seen that. And then underneath here, this is just the rough concrete, just to give it that sort of concrete pad feel. So they wouldn't decorate or anything in here. It's just very industrial, very factory-like. It's just big plant machinery. It's heavy plant machinery at the end of the day. So it just has this concrete base adding to it. I trimmed off all of the station with, I think it's the Romanesque stuff. Yeah, it is. Oh no, it's a haunted house wooden beam, but I've just doubled it up. So there's 2 levels on here, so it gives like a bit of texture to that trim. And then the fences themselves, they're Thememaker's Toolkit fences. There we go. So just the low fence that you get. These are awesome. Use them in Reigate Lake. So if you've downloaded the park, or if you downloaded the Thememaker's Toolkit pack that I did for the top tips, you'll have these in game. And then on the back here, I've just put the wooden fence panel that comes with the game just on here, but I've done it both sides, so it's actually just like both sides there, you see, so you don't see the join. It's nice and tidy. And then we've got the bunting. So the bunting comes in game. So this is just your multicolour bunting, but this is the drooping one, and it's actually 2. It's the 2 droops put together in like a 45-degree droop. say droop some more, you know. Say weird things. And then on the floor we've got the equivalent of the flat shapes here, but the circle. So let me show you that one. It's this one here. It's the smallest circle that we've got. And then Hydro's number, just to give it a number on the actual station itself. And then, of course, you've got all of your compliance signs and everything. They come from Thememaker's Toolkit. So you've got the no smoking area, you've got the baggage hold, you've got the IKEA shelves that are here. And then you've got inside the ride booth, I've just made it like a little bit officey. The IKEA shelves, the usual letter stuff. The fire extinguishers in here somewhere, etc, etc. So the actual ride booth itself uses the one-way, I might think this is another different building, yeah, so the one-way glass. Thememaker's Toolkit again, you could just as easily use the in-game glass. I only use this one-way glass because it's thinner. It doesn't so much, if you look here, it will just disappear at some point. It doesn't actually have much of a thickness to it, so it's a bit friendlier to use when you're using smaller, thinner walls. The actual wall itself is this one here. This is my little secret where we use... Come on. I'm just going to pull it out here. There we go. So I use the desk. So Thememaker's Toolkit Desk B is what I use for my walls. And again, same reason. I use it because it's thinner to use. It's a bit like friendlier when it comes to thickness of walls and everything. You're not being dictated to by the width of a normal wall, right? You can see the difference here. This is quite thick and this is quite thin. So I just go by and use the thinner wall. And then these stripes here, they're just hydro beams, so of different widths. So this is the slightly thicker version of the 2-meter beam, and then this is the slightly thinner version of the same beam, 2 meters, but it's that thinner version, and it's just coloured a different colour. The letters, obviously, you know, come from Tripwise, and the emergency sign is also Thememaker's Toolkit there as well. The arrows on the floor, they're actually the road sign arrows that I've shown you in the car park episode of the top tips. So arrow like so. There we go. And I've just coloured them and just put them onto the ground. And these spots, they're just the same circle that's on here, right? So that's all pretty familiar by now. And then you've also got the exit path. Now I've shown you how to do this, and I've told you how to do this already. So this exit path is a 2-meter path rather than a 4-meter that the game forces you to do. You have to play some trickery, and I've shown you how to do that in the pathing episode of the Top Tips series. So if you want to know how to do this this method, then that's fine. But just to let you know, when I show you in the Top Tips episode, it's on the ground. You'll need to raise up. You'll need to repeat the same steps, the same process, but you just need to raise up the path that you're using. So it's at the height that you want it to be up here rather than doing it on the ground. But principle remains exactly the same. You can do it. You can do it that way. So guys, that's actually the end of this extra episode. I just wanted to like give this opportunity to allow you guys to ask me to pull some things apart that we don't talk about in the long episode, because the feedback that I was getting was that the original episodes are far too long, and that you wanted shorter reveal episodes, but an extra episode that you can dip in and out of when you want to know how things are built. So I'm hoping that this has worked for you, because I've never done a pull apart episode, so I don't know if what I've just shown you is any good. So I'm relying on you guys to tell me in the comments below what you think, and I'm sure you absolutely will. But guys, thank you so much for coming along. Thank you so much for the support for the channel. It really does mean the world to me. And of course, until we speak again, please look after yourselves, and I'll see you on Sunday for the next episode of ChachoLandia. Bye bye.